Bo?
Here.
Member Angela Bergray, she said she's coming. But,
Okay.
Member Judith Gabriel, excuse. Member Tony Gerlix.
Here.
Member Mark McConnell, he said he's attending via online.
Yep. I don't know if you can hear me, but that's the case.
Can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Member McConnell.
Member Steve Filcher.
Here.
Member Ben Pingili.
Here.
Member Gary Schiffmiller.
Here.
Member Helen Wang. Chair Michael Garcia.
Present.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Next up is approval of the agenda. Any changes from staff?
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
Any changes from committee members? And if not, can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Gloriosa Mas, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Member Abo.
Yes.
Member Gerlix.
Yes.
Member McConnell.
Yes.
Member Pilcher.
Yes.
Member Pingili.
Yes.
Member Schiffmiller.
Yes.
Member Wang. Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Next up is approval of the minutes for our May 15th, 2025 meeting. Any changes from staff?
None, Mr. Chair.
Okay, any changes from members? And if none, what's the will of the committee?
I'll move to approve. I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, may we get a roll call vote, please?
Member Abo.
Yes.
Member Board Gray. Minutes. Member Gerlix.
Yes.
Member McConnell.
Yes.
Member Pilcher.
Abstain.
Member Pengili.
Yes.
Member Schiffmiller.
Yes.
Member Wang.
I'll abstain since I wasn't here.
Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Next up is communications from the public. Do we have any members of the public that would like to address the committee tonight? Any folks online? Okay, not seeing any. So with that, let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is communications from other agencies. First up is Safe Routes to School, Mr. Harris. I think I see him. Mr. Harris.
I think he's not coming, Mr. Chair. The
Okay.
school is
Okay.
on vacation.
Okay, now, hopefully a well-earned vacation. So then we'll go to move on to Bike Santa Fe. And I'm assuming, Jennifer, you're stepping in for Aria? Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, committee members, Jennifer Weber, board member of Bike Santa Fe, reporting out. Summer of Bike continues. One highlight is I was able to ride with a group from the rail yard to a Santa Fe Fuego baseball game on Saturday, which was a lot of fun. Encourage everybody to do it. And if you bike, you do get $2 off your entry ticket. So that's an added bonus. And your car will not be hit by a foul ball. So a second added bonus if you bike over to the game. Also want to share out that the board was able to hear at its most recent meeting a presentation from MPO on its updating its bike master plan, and that'll go out to public comment shortly, but we were fortunate to get that presentation in advance. And the month before, we heard a presentation from the county about its long-term land use planning efforts. And we look forward to engaging both MPO and the county to share out information about its public input process so that folks can talk both about biking and pedestrian safety and inform those plans. We have a few bike valets coming up. We'll be at IFAM on Saturday and Sunday, July 12th and 13th. And one thing that we did this year is we worked with IFAM to adjust our bike valet hours so that the volunteers at IFAM will be able to, that's our main audience for the bike valet. And we'll be starting a little earlier in order to accommodate the volunteers who bike down there on Saturday and Sunday for their work. And then we're also, again, doing the bike valets on the Canyon Road first Wednesdays. So this past Wednesday was very rainy and stormy, you recall, but we did have a couple folks who still biked. And so they were happy to see the bike valet there so they could park their bikes securely. And finally, our annual election of board members is coming up. So we do encourage people who are interested in serving on the Bike Santa Fe board to get in their letters of interest by July 3rd. And once we have identified people who bring skills and biking experience to the board, we do offer a stipend to people who are low income, LGBTQ, Black, Native American, Latino, Latina, other people of color who have historically been underrepresented and their knowledge untapped on a lot of nonprofit boards. And so we do offer a small stipend to them. So I want to encourage all folks to apply to be on the Bike Santa Fe board. Any questions?
And any questions for Jennifer? Yeah.
Who won the game?
It wasn't the Fuego that evening, nor on opening night when I was there, but they have been successful in other games. Thank you.
Memorable.
Hi, just a quick question. So is the folk art market going to be down at the rail yard again this year or back up the hill?
It's at the rail yard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Oh, I wanted to send out my appreciation to Bike Santa Fe. I requested and got the 3-page flyer on the Idaho stop and have distributed that to a number of folks. And a lot of people find it, a lot of people just really didn't know about it and are really glad to learn about that. So thanks very much for putting that together.
Yeah, great. You're welcome. Thank you for sharing that out.
Any other questions for Jennifer? Sure. Member Board Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Can we get those copies, more of those from you? Where do I?
If you email bikesantafe@gmail.com, we can email you the PDF.
Great.
And you can print it out as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. Let's go to move on to Santa Fe MPO.
Okay. It was green. It just wasn't as green. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and thank you, Jen, for bringing up Summer of Bike. A great reminder for me to also talk about the events that I'm involved in. So I'm working with the Economic Development Department to do what we're calling Bikes for Business. So the idea is that bikes are, a group people who ride bikes are a group in the city that have some economic power. And so we want to both show that and also use it to support businesses that have really been hit by the Guadalupe construction project. So on June 25th, we are biking there from the rail yard. We're doing a little social bike ride first, and we're ending at Remix Audio Bar. And we hope to make this a 3 to 4 part series to support businesses on Guadalupe. So I hope that you all do, if you're so inclined, come up and support that, or just support the businesses on Guadalupe either way. Also on the more policy side, we've been working for a long time. You guys have heard about it many times, that we've been partnering with the city on the street design guidelines. And we're wrapping that up. The funds had to be spent in this city fiscal year, which, as you may know, ends this month. So we are wrapping up the draft of it with the consultants this month, and then we will be working with BPAC and other stakeholders on the review of that, which we haven't totally fleshed out what that review process will look like, but we'll definitely include BPAC as a stakeholder. And then also, as Jen mentioned, we are working on a standalone amendment to the bicycle master plan. So it does not replace our 2019 bicycle master plan, just adds additional information about what we're calling safer bicycle facilities. There's some gaps in the information and in the applicability to more than a painted stripe of line on the road. I met with the BPAC subcommittee, technical review subcommittee this week, and we'll be expecting some comments from that. I also met with Bike Santa Fe, so we're gathering stakeholder and some city staff. So we're gathering stakeholder feedback prior to releasing for public review at our policy board meeting at the end of this month. We'll have a little longer than 30-day public review for that. We're also going to be releasing our metropolitan transportation plan for public review. And we'll have a 30-day public review period for that. And I'll work with Ramella to do some highlight presentations of both of those at the next BPAC meeting. And then this is kind of less exciting, but also our public participation plan. It's a federal requirement, and we'll have a 40-day public review period for that, and that'll be released at the same time. So you're welcome to find these, look them up and review prior to BPAC if you want to be ready with questions, or you can wait until I present at the meeting. I think that's it for us. So thanks. I'll stand for questions.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Member Pilcher.
When is the master plan update going to be released? Next month or so, or?
It'll be released this month at our policy board, which I don't remember the date off the top of my head. It might be the 26th. It's the 4th Thursday of this month.
Thank you.
Member Bordigary.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to laud you for the Bike for Guadalupe business event. I work in economic development. I received that email today, and it looks like it was a collaboration with the city's economic development department. Yeah, that's great. So creative and really beneficial. And then I had another question on forget what it's, not the safe streets for all, but the road design standards you were talking about. Street design, excuse me. I understood it was a resolution, and then now it's becoming part of the code, or?
I don't know.
No.
Are you thinking of the complete streets?
I'm thinking of complete streets.
Yeah, the complete streets resolution, I might have called out this as but really what it is chapter 14 is the land use code, and it has a bit of street guidance in it, and they're updating chapter 14, and instead of including all of the street guidance in the new land use code update, it's going to be taken out of that, and instead in this public works document, and we'll have more detail. So it'll give streets the appropriate attention to get what we actually want in Santa Fe.
So it is by ordinance. It's going to be code, not just guidelines or policy.
It'll be slightly different. The code and the ordinance will reference this document.
So they apply to all projects.
Yes.
Staff must apply.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, any other questions? Ms. Gloriosa Mas, can you tell me, or whomever has access to see the Zoom? I just want to make sure I'm not missing Member McConnell if his hand pops up. I don't think I see a yellow hand there, but just want to make sure. Okay.
He's on the screen. Chair
Okay.
Garcia.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Leah. Appreciate it. Next up is Public Safety Advisory Committee, Member Pilcher.
Well, as Mr. Spencer will recall, since it's happened to him a lot, the April meeting was canceled. And then I was out of town for the May meeting, so I have nothing to report.
Okay. All right, well, we'll anticipate wait the June meeting update, so. All right, let's go ahead and get on to the next portion of our agenda, which is discussion and possible action items. First up is certificate of appreciation presentation. And so we've got 3 of these. And sure, and so I don't know if we have a mic over there, just so Member McConnell can hear us. So I'll just say a few words and then we'll go ahead and call folks up. But we've got 2 folks we're recognizing and ultimately re-recognizing because the certificates were inaccurate, to say the least. They were recognizing them with language as if they were a Santa Fe Fiesta Council member, which maybe y'all might be, but we want to recognize you for your participation on BPAC. And so I think they all say the same thing. So I just want to tonight we're going to be recognizing former member Yolanda Eisenstein, former member and vice chair Carl Spencer, and then current member but soon to be alum member Erica Bowe. And I want to just read what it says here. In recognition of your outstanding service and unwavering commitment to promoting safe, accessible, and sustainable transportation for all, your invaluable contributions to the City of Santa Fe's Bicycling and Pedestrian Advisory Committee have significantly advanced our community's efforts in fostering a more inclusive and active environment. Your dedication to improving bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, advocating for policy changes, and engaging with the community has left a lasting impact on our shared vision for a healthier, more connected future. And these certificates are signed by Mayor Alan Weber and myself, Michael Garcia, as the BPAC chair. All 3 of y'all have been very instrumental in this committee, and the work, especially with Member Eisenstein and Member Spencer, you can see that your work is still being recognized today with the, we'll be talking about the discussion and the resolution for the Vision Zero, which was, as y'all know, was part of the strategic plan that y'all worked so hard on over the years. And so, as I mentioned, your work is going to have a long-lasting impact, not only on this committee, but through city policy, whether it was through the strategic plan, the BPAC resolution, the e-bike resolution, this Vision Zero resolution. This committee has really begun to shift and put more of a focus and importance on bicycle and pedestrian safety. And so I just want to thank you all and for everything that you have done. And again, I'll put it out there that you all can participate still as subcommittee members. So just putting that out there. There's not a limit on the number of folks that can participate in that sense. So we'll go ahead and I guess call y'all up. We'll get you these certificates with some. You each get a pair of socks that say BPAC on them. Bicycle with care, and then some bike lights, because we all want you to be fashionable, but also safe as well. So. Sure, absolutely. We'll allow for all members, so member Abo.
Thanks very much. Since I still have a mic, those of you who ride a bicycle know that if you're third in line, it's a lot easier. And Yolanda and Cal really pushed things forward. The e-bike ordinance worked hard in the strategic plan, as well as in many other things they did. So I was, third in line and just able to draft. So I really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Then I'll open it up if any members want to say anything. If no pressure by any means. So sure, member Bordigary.
Sure. I want to cheers all three of them. I joined the board and it was running smoothly, professionally, and I really am grateful to be on the board and getting to work with you guys. So, and you're going to still be around. So we'll see you out there. Thank you.
Yeah, member Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. Just one parting comment, not that I'm going away very fast, but when I joined this committee in 2018, there had been a raft of resignations and protest because the committee wasn't taken seriously, at least according to the people who were resigning in protest. I think if the city of Santa Fe learned one thing over the last 7 years, it's to take this committee very seriously because of the work it does and the quality of the people are on it. And that continues. I want to thank especially the folks who took over in District 1 for Yolanda and myself, as well as for everyone else on this committee. It's important work. It's good work. It's hard work. And sometimes it's hard to get through. You won't always have a win, but you won't have any wins unless you keep doing the good work you're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cal. Anybody else? I'll open it up to floor. We've got members. Yes. Oh, member Gerlitz, sorry.
Thank you, Cal. And part of the reason for the fact that BPAC may be taken seriously is the professionalism that both you and Yolanda brought to the process. You're both professionals in your own right, and you bring that sensibility to this committee as volunteers. I thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. We will always have you. So with that, let's move on to the next item, which is consideration of resolution number 2025 to be numbered later. Councilor Michael Garcia, Mayor Alan Weber. It's a resolution establishing the city of Santa Fe as a Vision Zero city and directing the city manager to take action in support of the Vision Zero goal. So before we get into the weeds in this, so to speak, I'll give a quick update. So as folks remember, the committee passed their version of this resolution in February timeframe, February, March, I believe. And there's only been minimal changes to this, only a slight addition that was at the request of mayor and staff. So a lot of it is your work that is going through this process. But now is where the real rubber meets the road, as this is the first committee that it's going to, and then it will be going to a couple other council committees and then up for final potential adoption at the end of this month. My hope was that we would have passed this last month in honor of Bike Month, but as Jennifer mentioned and others, hey, we've got Bike Summer, so this will be another win for our community during Bike Summer. So with that, I'll go and open up the floor. Feel free to chop this up, make any amendments, changes, suggestions, whatever. This is ultimately your work. I want to make sure it shines through this process. If you do have any amendments, as you all know, this body unfortunately does not have the authority to amend, but I, as a counselor, can take forward your amendments, which I wholeheartedly will stand behind. So with that, I'll open up the floor. I see member Gerlitz, and then we'll go to member Schiffmiller.
Thank you, Chair. One question that I had about the resolution, unless I missed it somewhere, is there was no discussion about any sort of timeline. When would there be an expectation that this be completed?
So page 5, well, it started on page 4, actually. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Santa Fe that the governing body hereby honors and supports the adoption of a Vision Zero strategy to significantly reduce traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. But I have a comment, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
because the title is directing the part of the title says directing the city manager to take action in support of the Vision Zero goal, but the word goal does not appear in any of the whereas, and the resolution is to the governing body hereby honors and supports the adoption of a Vision Zero strategy rather than goal that to significantly reduce traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. But Vision Zero is zero fatality, zero serious injuries. So are we saying we're changing? First, I believe if that is the title, Vision Zero goal, your resolution should be saying Vision Zero goal. And the goal is zero traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. Not just reducing significantly.
So with that being said, Romella, we could recommend, so if folks are looking at the agenda, the resolution, this is on the top of page 5. Says the governing body hereby honors and supports the adoption of the Vision Zero strategy to significantly reduce traffic fatalities and serious injuries. That could be we can eliminate the language significantly reduce traffic fatalities and serious injuries and replace it with language such as strategy to have zero traffic fatalities by 2050. Is that be more in alignment?
Because that is Vision Zero. Vision Zero doesn't say to reduce traffic fatalities and serious injuries. And in your first page, line 14, whereas it says vehicular fatalities and serious injuries are unacceptable and most are preventable. So Vision Zero, you can say it's a goal because that's in part of your title. So Vision Zero goal should be in your resolution. But here it's a strategy. A strategy for Vision Zero is the SS4, the safe system approach, SSA. That's a strategy. But yeah.
Member Bo.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate that comment and observation by Ramella. I wonder if changing the now therefore clause to be now therefore be it resolved by the City of Santa Fe that the governing body hereby achieve Vision Zero goal by 2050. So it kind of strips that down and kind of puts it all back onto what Vision Zero is. So it doesn't, that just might be a suggestion that you would bring forward as an amendment. Thanks.
But thank you, Member Bo. But I think what Romella is wanting to really tease out is clearly stating what the goal is, which it could, that we can add on to what you said, that, you know, the Vision Zero goal, which is to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries by 2050. So similar, somewhat what you were saying. It's to achieve the Vision Zero goal, which is to eliminate all traffic fatalities and severe injuries by 2050, because we want to, as Member Gerlitz said, have a timeline that we're working to achieve towards, but also clearly define what the goal is, because we've got to look at it from the context of, we know what the goal is in this moment of us sitting on the body, maybe even the folks on the governing body, but is it going to be clear in 10 years when somebody refers back to that resolution? And I think it's best for us to have it clearly stipulated what the goal is. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And yes, I understand. And the first one of the whereases on page 2, whereas Vision Zero is a strategy to reduce all traffic fatalities and severe traffic and related. So it really says it's to reduce all traffic fatalities and severe. So that reduction is in the whereases. So it gets a little bit far away from that goal of zero. Sorry to make it complicated, but just another observation. Thanks.
So sorry to it, as we go on, it says in support of the Vision Zero goal, maybe this is, we add an additional number. We eliminate where it says adoption of a Vision Zero strategy. And we change the language to eliminate, not as it currently states, significantly reduce. We strike that and say eliminate traffic fatalities. We replace that, and then we can add maybe a section 4 that clearly defines what that goal is. I don't know. I'll open it up to members. So Member Gerlitz, and I think Member Bordigari had her hand up as well.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks, Eric. As an inveterate idealist, I'm never going to argue with eliminating all traffic fatalities. And I'm just wondering about realism. And I'm reading here that Sweden adopted this in 1997, which is 28 years ago. And they report that traffic fatalities have been cut in half. So I'm just, again, throwing out the realism aspect. Maybe the goal ought to be not zero, but some percentage of reduction.
But, yeah, but Sweden is a country. This is City of Santa Fe. When we started drafting the local road safety audit, which adopted the Vision Zero and the safe system approach as a strategy, I said to them that, well, I don't think this is realistic, but I lived in Spokane, Washington State for 3 years. And while I was living there was no fatality. And Spokane was 300,000 plus people at the time. And the city of Santa Fe is around 89,000. Give or take, maybe we are 95,000 people using our streets. So it's not really not realistic. It can be done, especially with adopting the safe system approach as a strategy to achieve Vision Zero. And NMDOT is working on achieving that goal. And NMDOT's plan is by 2050, but the state of New Mexico, they said in the plan that they will achieve Vision Zero by 2030. I think that for me, that's more unrealistic.
I'll remove my comment and agree with Romella. Well done.
Any other
has had-
comments from members?
Mark has his hand up.
Oh, Mark, floor is yours.
Yeah, I would just comment that 2050 is a long ways out there. I'm new to City of Santa Fe and some of the unique problems maybe that the city and community face, but I would lobby for an earlier date for the goal, because I feel like when we put goals so far out, they don't seem real. This is a difficult thing to tackle. Same thing happens in my adult life's been in the construction industry. You look at the number of unsafe acts that lead to a fatality. I forget the exact number, but it's a lot if you've ever seen the safety pyramid. So I guess I'll have to think about it more, and I'll try and send some information to Romella or something, but I would lobby for 2050 is way too far out to try and I don't know, go to zero. I would be more aggressive. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Member McConnell. Any other comments? Member Schiffmiller.
Well, I think everybody knows we're never going to eliminate all fatalities and serious injuries, but a goal is not necessarily something that is achievable. It's an ideal to work towards constantly. You're always moving in that direction. And in that sense, I think it's something that should be implemented immediately, and we should just permanently try to move in that direction. And setting a date by which we're going to eliminate fatalities is obviously not realistic. But if we say we're going to try to eliminate all fatalities, we're going to implement all the things necessary to do that starting right now. I think that sort of language, I don't have specific language really, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Let's start now trying to eliminate fatalities. We'll never eliminate all fatalities, but let's always move in that direction. And then I have a couple of specific suggestions. On page 3, line 18 and 19, it says target 0 NM envisions a transportation system where every journey by car is completed safely with 0 traffic-related deaths in New Mexico by 2050. I think the language could be more inclusive. It could say every journey on public thoroughfares is completed safely with 0 traffic-related deaths, not just limit it to cars and driving, but just make it more inclusive. And then the other very minor editorial comment I have is on page 4, line 13. It says bicycle facilities and pedestrian crossing for increase safety. I think it's supposed to be increased with a D.
Page 4, line 13.
Page 4, line 13. I think you want increased in the past tense rather than increase.
Gotcha. Quick grammatical change.
Yeah. And I'd also just like to say that I think it's really great that we're putting in writing the acknowledgement that this is what needs to happen, that New Mexico in particular has fallen way behind the rest of the country, and we need to change it.
Okay, thank you, Member Schiffmiller. And I was just quickly trying to review target 0 NM to make sure. I think theirs is more, their goal is more holistic versus just specifically for public roads. Yes.
I Googled Target Zero. It's an NMDOT's program. It says here, Target Zero visions a transportation system where every journey is completed safely with zero driving related deaths in our state. So first is a transportation system that they are, and it's not just by journey by car, it's every journey.
Right, and I don't see the timeline in here. Maybe
I looked up some news articles and they did come out and say 2030, like in the Santa Fe New Mexican. I don't know if they've pushed that out though.
Okay. 2030 is what you saw in 20.
I saw.
So maybe we just
I can email it if that's helpful.
because we can even strike the date, given that and we can do some research between now and then. But if there is conflicting dates, we want to maybe eliminate that and just go with what it specifically says through their website, which is what Romella read to us. So thank you for bringing that forward, Membership Miller. We can make that swap out because it is a bit different. Because it seems like in the city's resolution, it added by car and then the date. So we can make those changes or confirm the date, but definitely it doesn't say by car. It says every journey is completed safely. So I don't think they're focusing specifically by vehicle, by cars. So okay, any other comments? Sure. Yeah, no, I'll happy to open it up to the floor. If any members of the audience has any comments. Sure. Join in on the fun.
Keep me shut up. Broadly agree with pretty much everything that in discussion so far. I would strike significantly because that's such a meaningless term. I mean, if we decrease things by 5%, somebody could throw up their hands and say success. The aspirational goal is 0, and I think that should be clear in the text. The other thing is, I think the important thing is some sort of timeline on when the city will fully incorporate Vision Zero concepts into its engineering design for its infrastructure. Because one of the main things of Vision Zero, I think I sent everybody an email blast on this, is to redesign our transportation infrastructure to reduce the probability of accidents and their severity. And until we get away from the motor vehicle level of service, which brings us disasters like Cerrillos Road or St. Francis Drive, we're not going to get any sort of Vision Zero. I mean, those changes have to be made if we're going to start getting there. Because the present designs, as I think most of us would agree, encourage speeding, encourage red light running, put pedestrians and bicyclists and other vulnerable users at high risk, because we've designed the existing roads just to move as many cars as fast as possible. So I think the main thing for the city to do, assuming we adopt this, is to make sure that the engineering department and the design department change the way they either rebuild roads or build new roads, not to do what we've done in the past. So I think that has to be worked in there somewhere specifically. Because without those kind of explicit guidelines, I think we're kind of fumbling in the dark. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee, for letting me speak my piece.
No, thank you. Thank you for the
Cal
insight.
Spencer, a former member. I have to get that in the recording.
Ms. Glorioso Moss, got a question for you, just because it's somewhat falls in your department.
Yes.
How can we incorporate language that will ensure that current and future staff will know that as the design process moves forward, they need to work to incorporate Vision Zero methodology?
Page 3, lines 8 to 11. The safe system approach, which is founded on 6 principles. Deaths and serious injuries are unacceptable. Humans make mistakes. Humans are vulnerable. responsibility shared, safety is proactive, and redundancy is crucial. So in Public Works Complete Streets, maybe we can add what we are doing, because if you notice, we have 7 road reconstruction projects, which includes the Guadalupe Street, which is the flagship of Complete Street Project. So we're adding or reconstructing a number of roadways, so there will be sidewalks and bicycle lanes. And the design, there's a redundancy in design because humans make mistakes. So you need to, your design, the engineering design of the road should be redundant. And humans are vulnerable. So we have safety system like put your seatbelt on, put the child in a carrier that is appropriate for his or her age. So I noticed that the legal services has included the work of the MPO. Maybe we can add that the Public Works is the engineering design of roadways is not complying, but following the safe system approach. That we are reconstructing our major roads. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Suggestion.
No, and it's in here in regards to the be it further resolved, that's, which you had mentioned is in the 3rd section. But I was looking more at the first section where we're talking about incorporate Vision Zero principles into the implementation of all relevant plans, policies, that portion. And I didn't know if it would strengthen this to say incorporate Vision Zero principles into the implementation of all relevant design plans. So adding the word design, or does that make it too specific? Because I want to ensure that as roadways and infrastructure is being designed, that we have to incorporate Vision Zero methodology. So I'll pose that to the committee in regards to how do we think we can best strengthen this to ensure that city staff is provided the appropriate guidance as they move forward with their work, that Vision Zero becomes a part of the process. Member Pilcher.
Excuse me, it seems like this is set up basically to give the city manager the responsibility of implementing this. So I would assume then this would become then part of the city manager's annual review process or whatever. I'm not sure what process you go through with the city manager. But I guess my concern is trying to tie it down so tight that there's not enough room to maneuver. And ultimately, you're directing a specific staff member to say, you need to do and ensure that this is done.
Gotcha. Okay. Member Wang. Oh, hold
How
on.
about page 5, lines 11 to 16? It says here, apply the safe system approach in designing the city's roadway system, which involves anticipating human mistakes by designing and managing road infrastructure to keep the risk of a mistake low and increasing the chances that when a mistake leads to a crash, the impact on the human body doesn't result in a fatality or serious injury. Road design and management should encourage safe speeds and appropriate pre-crash angles to reduce injury severity.
Right. And so guess would incorporating Vision Zero into that section be helpful? Where it says currently it says apply the safe system approach. We can say apply the safe system and Vision Zero approach. Again, I understand where Member Pilcher's coming from, just because I know your expertise in this is implementing this type of policy is a little more experienced than mine. I just want to make sure we're providing the appropriate guidance to ultimately the person that's going to be tasked with the duty, because the city manager is going to say, hey, I've got to get X, Y, and Z done. And I want to make sure we're providing the clear guidance to the city manager. That way the city manager can ultimately provide the clear guidance to the expert that is ultimately going to get the job done for the city. So, Member Wang, sorry.
Well, I guess to that, this wasn't my original point, but I think the safe systems approach is mentioned earlier in the resolution. I think it's like a part of the Vision Zero system, and I guess, or like set of recommendations. And I don't know, I feel like the resolution presumes that we all know about all the tenets of Vision Zero. And I guess reading through this and hearing this discussion, we don't. So maybe to your point, like just adding Vision Zero in front of like the Vision Zero safe systems approach could help with that. I think I had two questions. One, like, this is my first advisory committee or whatever, so I don't know a ton about how city government works. When I read a resolution like this, I guess I'm wondering, is the intention to set like a bold vision and then we figure out the how later? Or is it supposed to be like in one resolution, we're also squeezing in like how it's going to be done, et cetera? Because I think if it's like more towards the bold vision and you can pass other resolutions later, or we can figure out how later, than just setting the bold vision of like 0 fatalities and serious injuries by 2050 or 2030, whatever date we want, whether it's consistent with the state or not. That seems fine to me. I think if the goal of the resolution is to say like, and this is exactly how we'll do it, then I think more about like, Dr. Spencer's comment or whatever about like, let's set some specific goals. Let's hold people accountable. Let's set like a realistic number or percentage reduction by some specific year. But I don't know what we're headed towards here. Overall, I'm just super excited about this resolution. So thank you to you and the mayor for introducing it. But I think I'm just trying to get clear on what it's trying to do before we all make these comments about like, well, needs this and this and this. Because intuitively, I think if we pack a bunch in there, it seems like it'll be harder for you to pass.
It could be. And so to answer your question, resolution could be both, honestly. It could be a bold vision, or it could be a specific set of goals, strategy, et cetera. I think that's where we as a committee, I would say as some of the experts at the table would be able to provide that framework to the rest of city government. So I'm not against setting benchmarks to say we want to do X, Y, and Z by this date, because I'm somebody who likes to show progress, but meanwhile, ultimately holding the city accountable towards, we said we were going to do X, Y, and Z. And it allows for whether it's additional policy to be implemented that will allow for us to meet those goals, resources to be allocated for us to meet those goals. But ultimately, I think the end goal is to ensure that we're promoting safety with the hopes that we're working towards eliminating fatalities in our community. And so I would say to your question, it's up to the committee. We can be specific. I don't really think it would put the resolution in jeopardy. If it does, we can always work to pull those out. So, yeah. Member Abo, and then Member Bordigary.
Sorry. Thanks very much. And I appreciate the discussion. I'm focused on the be it resolved page, which is the last page in the document. And the 1, 2, and 3 are plan, fund, and do. And I think it's important to put projects, to mention projects in the planning phase, because the way it's kind of laid out, we're planning on doing something. Let's, in our plan, even in the capital planning process, you really need to say, I don't need to build a 7-lane something or other. I need to incorporate this into that at the initial stage. So I think it is not contrary. It's still big picture enough, but just to say in all planning process, by saying including but not limiting to, and then it's BPAC, MPO, and some resolution, but you don't say the city's internal planning process, you're kind of putting that on a second rung. And so I believe that you should mention specific project plans. You know, when someone tells Ramella, there's some funding and we've got a list of projects, and so let's go after money because we need this project done, that might be completely contrary to Vision Zero just because of the nature of that project. So I think you have to have this lens on when you're planning. So if there's some way to incorporate that in the planning part as well as in the implementation part in number 3, I think that would result in a safer system. Thanks. And sorry to interrupt, Angela. Member Gordier.
Thank you. I really didn't have a comment, but now I do that on what Eric is talking about. I'm also a practicing planner, so I believe in having guidance for staff really spelled out, and less of the lofty goals. And but I'm learning. I mean, I'm agreeing with what you're saying and setting high goals. I'm just really a practical. In practice, if we really want this vision to be implemented, then I agree with Eric that if I understood that what Eric was saying is that some specificity should go in here. Is that? Did I get that turned around? Having
No,
projects, because I support that too.
Yeah, I think if there's a way to reframe item 1 in the be it hereby resolved to incorporate, not to just to be the overarching plans, the MPO's plan and BPAC strategic plan, but also that planning to kind of be embedded into what are we going to do in the next 5 years from the implementers. So I agree that you really need to use the resolution to dictate to staff, this is the will of the governing body. The will of the governing body is when you think of what you're going to do, have this frame on. So thanks.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with y'all on those comments. And I think that's where, if we can figure out that language tonight, amazing. If not, I can work with folks offline to incorporate it as an amendment, because one thing we got to remember is this hopefully will pass at the end of this month, but we also got to be realistic about the future and that there will be an administration change, and that comes with a lot of turnover in staff, which might not even know this resolution passed. And we need to ensure that, as Member Bordigari mentioned, that we're setting up staff for success, not saying, here is this lofty goal and just figure it out. Because that's not helpful by any means to anybody. So any other comment, feedback?
Mark has his hand up.
Member McConnell.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I was thinking about the goal, and it's a great goal. I'm going to come back to it. Like, is everyone familiar with SMART goals? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. And maybe for this resolution, it's inappropriate. I'm new to a committee, just like Helen had mentioned, but should there be some sub goals? Like, if it's really going to be 2050, are we going to try and achieve a 20% reduction by 2030 of, and continue on some kind of. And then my other question about SMART goals is the measurability, is the idea that this is going to be passed down to people who are involved with projects. How are we going to measure whether or not they're meeting the goal? Is there a checkbox that says, okay, we reviewed Vision Zero, it's incorporated into this project, success? And again, I'll admit my newness to all of the city government council is there. So maybe there's a whole bunch of things I just currently do not understand. That's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Member McConnell. I really appreciate that. Any other comments? Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks very much. One of the things that will cause reductions is the change of the infrastructure, the design infrastructure. Is he now Dr. Spencer? I know him as Cal. I know him as Cal. But one of the things that makes an out year goal meaningful is we don't build 5 new streets every year. We don't redo our streets. If we did a Guadalupe Street size project, every year, Ramella would run away screaming, but that's just not, so there's not enough turnover. It's like getting a more efficient vehicle fleet. You can't say you have to get from here to there because people don't buy a new car every year. And so there's the same kind of concern. I do think having some interim language to make meaningful, measurable progress, in the interim, to make, some kind of, I like your idea of some kind of incremental steps. That's just something that kind of speaks to having a big out year goal, but like you said, probably have some meaningful progress toward, to those reductions. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just babbling.
Member Gerlitz.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Eric and Angela. I don't disagree with that, but isn't that the city manager's job to sort of put all of those timelines, benchmarks, reporting back to the governing body along the way? Isn't that the city manager's job?
It could be, but I think through the governing body's request, we can set those benchmarks, because if it's not stipulated, there's nothing that ultimately would require it. The city manager can say, I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm doing what you asked. Nowhere did it say we had to meet certain benchmarks. Again, because I look at it from the context of 15 years from now in 2040. Should there be a check-in process to say, this was passed 15 years ago, here we are 15 years later, and we've still got 10 years to go towards achieving this goal. So I understand where you're coming from and allowing for the city manager to have that somewhat autonomy, but in my experience, whether it's on the council or in just public government as well, if it's not written down, nobody's going to be held accountable to it.
It's not enough just to tell the city manager, come back to us with a plan.
No, because right now it's just to say you're taking the following actions. So right now it's incorporate Vision Zero into policies, principles into the implementation of all relevant plans and policies. Very ambiguous, including but not limited to BPAC strategic plan, MPO's local road safety plan, complete streets resolution. Complete street, I'm surprised that, because complete streets resolution is legislation that's passed. We're not going to bring back the resolution and update it. I mean, I don't know if that's the intention around this. So that raised a question mark for me. Given that we have, as mentioned, we've got the MPO's bike master plan. Why isn't that mentioned here, right? That should be an immediate directive that Vision Zero needs to be incorporated into the bike master plan. And I don't know if it is or isn't, but I haven't seen it. So, but that's where being more specific is helpful. And I think one of the thoughts I had around this specific section is adding the word city, like in between relevant and planned. So it would say implementation of all city plans or all relevant city plans. That way it's clear cut that the city manager has to figure out how they are going to incorporate this into all relevant city plans. And that's where, as Member McConnell was mentioning, developing a checkbox. I think that's a great idea. I think that's very specific for this resolution. That's what would be up to the city manager to determine how that accountability and sustainability for the accountability is built into the process and system. So hopefully that's helpful. Yeah. Member Bordigary and then Member Pilcher.
Thank you. I just want to have the dialogue with my member sitting next to me about this issue. Like, how much do you leave to the, authority of the manager versus, laying it out more what needs to happen? It should be, maybe it used to be that, the chief has the authority to do everything, but the world's changed and things they're more lateral. And in my experience directly in government and for 25 years as a planner, I can tell you that the turnover, when you have turnover like we do, which has been just exponentially increased since COVID. I've had 3 different jobs at the county, the state, and the city, and people were there. Even in the short time I was there, people left. And so this is addressing reality. And if you want change, you can't leave it to them. And you need that person at the top to be telling the managers and to be directing the managers to carry it out. And if it's not, done like that, then you really will get sort of like some, there'll be different levels of attention paid to it. I just felt like I wanted to say something because about, that's the authority, that's in the jurisdiction of a certain, level of government, and it just isn't functional anymore. It's just not functional. We've got turnover, vacancies since COVID, and it's never going to go back. It's never going to go back. So if we want things to change tangibly, I think I like that we're talking about doing this. This isn't a lofty resolution and a big, like a city general plan. I mean, how effective is that? We have a city plan from 1999 and, we have a code. And so we're doing good work here. And I just wanted to add to the dialogue about that. Don't leave it up to the discretion. We had a manager for a year. We had another one here. You've had it happen at the county, should be instituted within the staff, within the departments, the people that do the work, and they should be told to do it, and they should tell their staff to do it. So yeah, that's all. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you. The chair asked me to step in till he gets back. My comment was going to be kind of second what Tony was saying. The way I see it, things should flow through the city manager. What we could do is add to this resolution some type of reporting requirement, like so every 2 years, 3 years, the city manager shall give a report on progress being made. 6 months would be a little bit overly ambitious, but yeah, so that's my idea. Maybe we add some type of direction about how often you need to report back to the governing body about here's what we're doing, here's the progress we've made. But I agree with you. There is an issue when you got turnover a lot, though. I would just say that one good recession will take care of that turnover problem. I work for local government, and I worked for local government back in 08, and everyone just dug in their heels when the Great Recession started. No one was moving anywhere.
So I agree with what you said, but that implies that there would be some sort of requirement for data compilation.
Mr. Vice Chair. So I agree that reporting is essential, and I don't believe currently. I think if the city manager were directed through this resolution to report annually to the city council the number of traffic-related deaths within the city limits. So, I think that would bring attention to this, just to say, hey, I'm doing my Vision Zero reporting in 2025, calendar or fiscal year, there were this many traffic-related deaths, and give a little bit of detail. If there were required reporting by the city manager to the governing body, that would kind of elevate the awareness of this resolution. And it would also, that's the ultimate measurement that you want to make. So I think a reporting requirement in here directing the city manager to report annually to the governing body of the number and circumstances of all the traffic fatalities, because I'm sure some, it's probably through counselors' reading of the New Mexican that they find this stuff out. I doubt, and the non-existent public safety committee. So I think that if there was some reporting that you put in here as number 1, city manager, or number 4, city manager annually reports to the governing body on the number of traffic-related injuries and fatalities, blah, blah, blah. I think that would be beneficial. That'd be a good add, in my opinion. Thank you.
And just as a quick follow-up to that, an easy way to ensure that happens is, I believe per ordinance, the city manager has to biannually report to the governing body. Now, has that happened? I don't think so, but at least there is, again, that accountability that we can add the language that this set of data is requested to be incorporated into the city manager's biannual report. I can quickly look up what if
And
it's
is
annual or
that the biannual that means twice a year, or the biannual that means once every 2 years? I can never get those straight.
twice a year.
Okay.
So okay. Oh, what I'll do is I'll quickly look it up, and if folks are open to that, that might be the best mechanism to get that update provided to the governing body.
And Mr. Chair, I think we're all just brain dumping on you, since we don't have the ability to make any amendments. I think that you can pick and choose among what you've heard here, and use your ability as a city councilor to. So I just don't want to think, I don't imagine that we can craft anything that captures the depth and breadth of our conversation.
But I do think that the tenor of the conversation does revolve around accountability. I don't know if you heard Councilor talk about reporting back to the governing council here, seem to have precedence.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that is, I wholeheartedly agree. So right now, that is the third kind of recommendation I've got, which is reporting to the governing body. Actually, four is the fourth one. So right now I've got, when we get into page 5, lines 1 and 2, to strike significantly reduce and change that with eliminate. We keep the date as right now, right? Then the next one is a technical change to, because it says increase and it should be increased. Make that change. We get into, again, page 5, line 5, incorporate the word city between relevant and plans, so relevant city plans, policies. And then the last one is to add a 4th bullet that have the city manager report or include an update on how, I guess maybe if y'all can help me frame this one, include an update, what would folks like as part of that update? Because we could include it in the city manager's annual update, but I guess give me a menu of data, stats, framework, et cetera, you would like to see.
Doesn't, Mr. Chair, doesn't Vision Zero have concrete criteria already established?
Just eliminate fatal fatalities and serious injuries.
Is that it? Is that?
That's it.
Well, that certainly is one. If not,
Mr. Chair, there is another recommendation from Member Schiff Miller, page 3, lines 18 and 19 about target 0. Where every journey is
Oh, yes.
completed safely, not just by car. And we need to confirm the date because the 2030 is states goal by 2030 and NMDOT by 2050. And target 0 is not state, it's NMDOT only. So that's the difference.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Fifth potential change to, okay. Yes, Member Gerlitz.
just a point of clarification, are we keeping 2050 or are we changing?
So you're referencing the 2050 that's cited in the
Line-
whereas clause, line 2, right? And
No, line 19, page
Oh.
3.
oh, so we would confirm the actual date because I think Romella said the state's date that they're working off is 2030, and they might have got it confused with what we're hoping our date is 2050. So I'll confirm. And if it's 2050 on the state side, we'll keep it. If it's the state's 2030, I'll make the change.
Couldn't the city just decide its own?
So this is citing the state's own. So on page 3, where it's saying this target 0 initiative, that's a state initiative, state of New Mexico initiative through NMDOT. And so we need to confirm through NMDOT, is their goal actually 2050 or is it 2030? And if they don't have a goal, then we'll take the date out. But I think Member Wang had mentioned 20, she saw 2030. And so we'll confirm that date.
Okay.
Yeah. Are folks okay with when we get into the therefore be it resolved? Because that is the actual action, the meat of the resolution. Are folks okay with that date of 2050? Being kind of the benchmark date of having 0 traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2050? Or do folks want to, I know that Member McConnell said that so far out, and thinking about it, I mean, that's 25 years from now.
And I also want to reiterate Romella's comment about the city of Spokane, which reduced it in far less time.
Right.
I vote for a much shorter time.
Okay. I'm open to the will of the committee. What do folks feel comfortable with? Member McConnell.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm still thinking about your direct question you just asked, what do we want? But I think if we stick with 2050, we need to break it down and have some incremental goals so that it just doesn't seem like it's one giant thing wrapped up and then in the last 5 years. And that's not how it would work anyway. I get that infrastructure is changing slowly over time and these incremental improvements as they get connected up with revitalization projects that connect in and change how a bike lane or pedestrian access works. But I do feel like that if you don't put some pressure on to have incremental goals in between the 2050, or we move the date nearer in time, I think it's a perception thing. People just feel like it's, I'll admit it. I have a job that has specific deadlines, and I'm just as bad at procrastinating as anyone else.
Right. And so with that being said, I wholeheartedly agree with, and I'm just throwing this out here, just as they say, throwing spaghetti on a wall and see what sticks. If we were to say, we would keep actually this language somewhat in this first, therefore be resolved to state something like the governing body hereby honors and supports the adaptation of a Vision Zero strategy to significantly reduce traffic fatalities by 20% by 2030, by 50% by 2040, and eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries by 2050. So you get that incremental reduction. There are benchmarks, and you ultimately have that end goal of 2050 being zero. And I understand where Member Gerlitz is coming from. Let's be more aggressive, and we can shorten that time frame. Just throwing out how we might be able to add in incremental benchmarks for accountability.
I'm inclined to go bold, shorten it. I mean, the world right now and what's happening, like 2050, like
So
that's what, 5 years, 2030
well, no, so 2030 would be 20% reduction,
reduction.
because we've got to think of it from the perspective of the Vision Zero is to implement this process into design goals. So even if we adopted it, it still has to be implemented into upcoming projects, right? And that's the lens I'm looking at it. I wish we can say we're going to have zero, but the whole philosophy around this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Romella, this is to design infrastructure that would allow for zero deaths. And so this would allow for the appropriate planning to be implemented that way. And maybe we can, I'm all for bumping it up. So instead of 2050, we say 2040, and have that kind of maybe 5-year increment. So still 2030, 20%, 2035, 50%, 2040, zero. Memorable.
Mr. Chair, sounds like climate goals to me. And the challenge is, what's your baseline year? When you put percentages in, you have to get, what's your baseline year? Was it this bad year? Was it the previous not so bad year? So I think I like the idea of putting, of putting kind of 5-year chunks in, because people, that makes sense to people. And to me, to demonstrate significant reduction, as shown through the annual reporting every 5 years, with the ultimate goal of whatever it turns out to be. So I think you just might be making a difficult situation if you say 20%. 20% of what? So I think something like significant reduction and setting some interim timeline would be the way to go. That's
Gotcha. No. This is how we're making this
sausage.
You took the words out of my mouth. Okay, Member Gerlitz.
I'll barbecue that sausage. I agree with Cal. Significant doesn't mean anything. It's in the eye of the beholder. But you need a hardcore data. So 20% reduction of current value would be a way of having some hardcore data. You can have, when the resolution is implemented, whenever that is, 2025, you take the number of deaths. That's your base. And then next year you reduced it by 20%. The following year, you reduce that same number by more. So
I'm just trying to think of. That's where I would lean on the legislative drafting team to wordsmith all that, but yeah, to use 2025 as the baseline data that we would be working off
Right.
on the future.
Twenty 2025, well, whenever the resolution gets up, then that's your start.
Right. Well, I think.
1 year
um,
look back or 1 year calendar? Right. 1 year look. I don't.
Or,
However they keep this.
I mean, we can even do calendar year 2024, just since it's a clear cut. Yeah.
I would recommend like an average of the last 5 years because you could have an anomalous year. So taking an average of, 2020 to 2025 and using that as your baseline.
And we'll see what the legislative team can come up with. Any other thoughts, recommendations, wishes, likes, dislikes? Member McConnell.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, final comment. I don't think it's part of the resolution. I think it was Romello was talking about Spokane and what their numbers were. Maybe as a side committee thing, we need to study what some other places have done and how did they make the process? How did it work? Learn from others that have already had successes in reducing fatalities more significantly. I don't have the answer here. I just wanted to put that comment into the record and I'm happy to volunteer for some research efforts to try and figure that out. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Member McConnell, for willing to dig in a little deeper on this important topic. Anything else from folks? Member Wayne.
I'll just say that I think the resolution gives you a good head start on this because it cites like the top most dangerous intersections in Santa Fe over like a 5-year period. Happy to help with research too. But I think I would feel better about those concrete goals if like Member Abo said, like, sorry if I butchered that like we knew there were upcoming work on those intersections, then I would feel really confident, like, okay, we can influence those plans, we can reduce fatalities there. I think if there's I think Romella gave me a peek into just like how city infrastructure works. And if there's no work slated for the next like 5-10 years, then I think I'd feel a lot more pessimistic about the goals we're setting.
Right. Well, I don't want us to be pessimistic. I think that's where we use resolutions like this because we've identified problematic areas and committees such as BPAC can really hold the city accountable to say, hey, look, this intersection has, had so many challenges, it needs to be fixed. And we don't wait ultimately for the city to take action. It's that whole thought process of initiative, citizen-led initiative. And we, as a committee, can do that. And the counselor that sits on this committee can help to drive that initiative forward. So well, don't be pessimistic. We'll get stuff done. So any other comments, thoughts? Okay, so what's the will of the committee?
I'll move to approve BPAC's recommendation of this resolution with a distilled version of all of our recommendations.
Second, okay. And just so I can reiterate what comments I'm going to take back to work on some amendments, which was to work on that first section that talks about the adoption of the Vision Zero strategy to reduce traffic and serious injuries by 2050. That will be reworked with some time increments, trying to work in some certain benchmarks according to potentially 5-year timeframes. Then we have just a small update changing from increased to increased. and add a section in the be it further resolved to have the city manager report to the governing body on the actions being taken. We've got the update for the target 0 NM to strike the car language and update the time frame if necessary. And there's one more. I can't read my chicken scratch. What was the last one, Romella? Do you remember? No. Reporting target 0. Changing the technical from increased to increased, benchmarks.
Eliminate.
Yeah, that's the kind of the benchmarks section. Anything else I'm missing from folks? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I think you said the city manager should report on the actions that are taken, but I think what we wanted is for the city manager to report the data.
Right. Well, how the Vision Zero has been impacting.
Right. So we actually want a requirement for data compilation and to report that.
All right. Anything I'm missing? Yes, Member Bordiger.
Hate to do this. Based on what Gary just said, I like the simplicity aspect of when Eric was talking about this. And I love data, big time, but that it not be too technical or too onerous or, I mean, maybe that's in the interpretation. I mean, definitely we need data, but again, it's like the practical reality of staff that's overloaded and doing 4 jobs.
Number of deaths. That's the data.
Yeah, just really not percentages. I mean, later you can talk about that, but anyway, just wanted to make a plug for that.
So just have the data be number of traffic related pedestrian cyclist deaths in the last 6 months.
Simple.
Automobile.
Yeah, just like a
Motorist
table.
deaths and also
Table.
serious injuries.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 page.
And I did remember the last update, which was to incorporate the word city on line 5 in between relevant in plans. That way it states relevant city plans. So that was the last one I was able to decipher my chicken scratch. Anything else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the number 5, page 5, Vision Zero is not a strategy, it's a goal. So replace the word strategy with a goal so that your title is correct in support of the Vision Zero goal, not
Gotcha.
in support of Vision Zero strategy. And then I think it was member Chief Miller who pointed out that on page 2, lines 20 and 21, it needs to be Vision Zero is a goal, not to reduce all traffic fatalities, but no fatalities. No traffic fatalities and serious injuries.
Okay.
Literal definition.
Okay. Anything else?
We have a motion and a second. Is that right?
Yes. No other discussion I'm seeing. Romella, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Member Abo,
Yes.
Member Board Gray, Member Gerlix, Member McConnell,
Yes.
Member Pilcher,
Yes.
Member Pengili,
Yes.
Member Chief Miller,
Yes.
Member Wang,
Yes.
Chair Garcia,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right.
And the DOT, 17 people died in 2024 in Santa Fe County. They break it down by county. And in 2023, it was 15. So that's kind of the scale. But DOT has,
Is that just automobiles or does that include-
traffic related. It's not broken down in this table, but
Should be able to eliminate 17.
Okay, so with that, let's go to move on to item C, Santa Fe Forward General Plan Update. Director Lamboy. I must admit, Director Lamboy, although I don't want you to be injured, I miss seeing you on the scooter just because it was looked so fun to be cruising around on the scooter. So I'm glad you're recovered and doing well.
And I think the light just went off. Sorry. My name is Heather Lamboy. I'm the director of the Planning and Land Use Department. I've been really enjoying the conversation that I've been hearing regarding the resolution and the need to forward think and determine what's going to happen in the future and how are we going to get there. I'm good? Okay. Great. So we have embarked on the Santa Fe Forward General Plan update. As Member Borgaray mentioned, both of us, well, you didn't mention it, but both of us worked on the plan back in the 1990s. And yes, I'm dating ourselves. But, you know, it was really great experience early in my career to understand how things, you know, visioning how things would happen in the future. And at that time, I was like, well, I'm never going to see that in my lifetime. And I was part of the initial rail yard planning process. And here we are. And the rail yard has had a lot of successes, and there's still a lot of improvements to be made. Certainly, with the horizon year of 2050, that is a long-term plan, but the intent is to make this an actionable plan. So it will establish an updated collective vision for Santa Fe. We're not the same as what we were in 1999. It'll set guide priorities. And, you know, I might offer some ideas on how those priorities can be established and actually implemented. It lays out long-term goals, and part of the general plan update will include an implementation plan, so that it is a living document. Right now, the only way we use it on a regular basis is relative to land development applications and when a property is rezoned. Does this comply with the general plan? And we have way too many amendments to the general plan. It's intended to be something of a foundational document that's not amended too often, with the exception of potentially implementation strategies. So the consensus vision is needed in our community. There's been a lot of community conversations as of recent, for instance, with the chart plan and other, you know, plans and policies that are being developed where there's been community consternation. And City Manager Mark Scott really put it in a good place when he said, I hope you have a lot of very difficult conversations, because that's exactly what's needed for the general plan to be successful. So the project team includes the Land Use Department as well as WSP USA. They are a consultant that is nationwide, but it is being led by the Albuquerque office and Nick Fazio, and he's a local. In addition, Leland Consulting Group is doing the economic analysis. Design Workshop is doing the the urban design standards and implementing ideas such as infill practices, urban design and the like, and how do we do that as well. So here, where are we in this plan? It is a 3-year work plan, and we're hoping to advance it even faster, but we have a great opportunity here because right now we're in the process of updating the land development code, which phase 1 is going to be introduced June 25th. So this phase 1 of the land development code includes forward-thinking ideas such as reducing parking requirements and accounting for electronic vehicles and providing credit for use of transit in terms of the amount of parking. For instance, if there's a bus on Cerrillos Road that passes by every 15 minutes, you need less parking spaces because there's easier access to people's work and to the services that they need on a daily basis. So step 2 will be the vision and goals with the kickoff on Saturday there with the open house with the general plan update, which will be held at the Higher Education Center at the Midtown campus from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Please do stop by. We are going to initiate the vision and goals phase of this process. We will also be conducting scenario planning using geographic information systems data to envision how the future will look, sort of like a Minecraft, as it were, and building out Santa Fe. And what is it going to look like in 2025, or what it looks like now, 2035, 2045, and 2050. And then the work program and the funding plan will be also incorporated, as well as the final action related to the general plan, and then the ongoing administrative coordination. So how are we going to engage with the community? Well, all of our materials are going to be both in English and as well as in Spanish. Es muy importante. And so it's Santa Fe Avanzando, and we really feel like that is a critical piece that we don't engage with often enough in a meaningful way. We have a communities partners program. So many organizations across the city applied through a micro grant program, nonprofits that would engage with their constituencies. And so we will be tomorrow starting with an orientation session with the community partners. The open houses, we also have a technical working group that is composed of about 20 people and from different professions, and they provide us with feedback on proposed policies, but also the assessment report is the most recent thing. We had our first meeting with them on last Friday. In addition, we'll have an interactive project website, which I'll show you a couple pages in just a minute, and we'll collaborate. And so some of our outreach for the land development code will also be included with the general plan. So it's that 30,000 foot policy level policy development that corresponds, and how is that going to be implemented on the ground? How are we going to do that through our permitting process? How are we going to do it through affordable housing incentives and programs and the like? So as I plugged earlier, we do have the open house this coming Saturday at the Higher Education Center. The open house will be addressing the assessment reports. And I will go into the detail a little bit, but the technical working group includes residents from all across the city. We really tried to balance the location of these residents because not everybody knows the entire community. And so having folks from different parts of the community, for instance, I know what my experience is at Zia and St. Francis, which is in the general area of where I live, but I don't know airports so much. So we're really trying to get collaboration from across the community. And this will be a technical reference group, but we also have our community partners that I mentioned. And this is a list of community partners, and I'm sorry that it's relatively small, but to name a few is Chisuke Pueblo, Indigenous Ways, HomeWise, Girls Inc., the Esperanza Shelter, Queen Bee Music Association. So we're really trying to engage with not only the youth, but also other entities and organizations in the city that really has diverse constituency. The assessment report is an important piece of a general plan update. So in order to develop policy, you have to understand where you are at the current time. So we have produced this assessment report in collaboration. So WSP and Leyland Consulting Group did an economic analysis and an evaluation of our current programs and the existing conditions. So it was identification of planning issues and community needs, what has been accomplished. So there was an audit that was done by Daniel Alvarado, who's a senior planner. There were 492 goals and policies in the 1999 general plan update. A lot of them could not be quantified, but there were a lot of things that were accomplished in the past 25 years. And so as we roll this out, we're going to be talking about those things that have been accomplished, but things also that need to be accomplished. And this is relatively small, but the key findings relative to transportation, it's really important to think about because we don't want our community design be designed for vehicles as it has been in the past. We need to think beyond that as the charge of this committee, and you all know. So make transportation corridors friendly for all users. Existing transportation corridors could be prioritized and improved with better infrastructure design to accommodate all modes. Close active transportation gaps. For instance, with the Aurora Chamiso Trail, we need to find investments and priorities to close those gaps. Where a sidewalk is deficient, how do we improve the sidewalks along Cerrillos Road so people feel comfortable navigating that corridor without being overwhelmed by vehicles? Cars park anytime, anywhere, but people matter the most. So parking for automobiles consume a lot of land. And so what can we do to inspire people to use other modes of transportation? So part of that is a compact urban form. So one of the major things that needs to be implemented in the city of Santa Fe is infill development. And we're looking at a land capability analysis to determine where are the areas that will be important for strategic investments, not only by the city of Santa Fe, but also the development community as we move forward in developing housing as well as commercial developments. Update the bus system to serve customer needs and wants. There was a city employee that was part of our team. She's part of a different team now, but she came to the city of Santa Fe without a car. And so she wanted to use the on-demand service. And the on-demand service could not get her to work before 9:30 in the morning, which is a challenge. And you can imagine a hotel worker who has an odd schedule. They can't be accommodated by transit. And sort of one of my proud things, so I'm from New Mexico, but I previously worked in Denver, Colorado for about a decade. And my sons did not learn how to drive until they moved to the city of Santa Fe because they were able to use the light rail. They rode their bike. They were able to navigate the metro. I mean, I worked for the city of Aurora, and they would come from our house in Denver and have lunch with me during the summers. And they would take the light rail and walking paths and the like. So that's what we want for our kids as well. I mean, not necessarily, not having the ability to drive and all of a sudden being panicked and having to learn how to drive quickly. But we do want those options for our youth to be able to navigate around the city, enjoy the things that we have here, which are so critical to have those connections for schools, activities, and the like. And use transportation to invest in many other public benefits. One plug here that I would make, I worked in Florida, and it had a state framework for growth management. Part of that state framework was having maps about cost affordable improvements, transportation improvements, and not just, road improvements, but others that would be budgeted in the next 3 to 5 years. And then the future long-term improvements that could be budgeted in the next 10 to 15 years. And that map is something that is adopted and agreed to through the Metropolitan Planning Organization there. And it serves and informs what actions have to take place by, this was a regional planning organization. So We had 3 different communities plus the county. And that set forth those investments that had to be implemented through the capital improvements plan. And that map, because it had to be updated, that map helped the community have conversations about where the investments needed to take place. And the only way the map could change is if it was amended through a public process. So this is your opportunity with Vision Zero to really find financial opportunities for financial investments and keep the, with all due respect to Councilor Garcia, keep the council honest to what needs to be done. Because right now with the impact fees and the like, we have this one emergency, we have this other thing. Impact fees really do provide a nice pot of money, but it's reactionary right now. We need to be proactive as we go forward and thinking about transportation and the improvements and investments that are necessary. So there is a website for Santa Fe Forward. It's santafeforward.org. There has been a lot of activity on the website. On the website, you can actually access all the documents. The assessment report will be there. It's about 600 pages of data and analysis that we have boiled down into some hot sheets, the key findings that you saw a preview of there, for all sorts of different topics, including water, climate resiliency, land uses, neighborhoods, arts and culture. All of those things are addressed in that report. And I encourage you to take a look at it when you have the opportunity. It is going to be posted tomorrow on this website. We've had some engagement already. We had a sort of soft rollout of our website at the end of January. And between January and May, we had, I'm sorry, this is a bit dated. We haven't updated it yet. We had over 2,000 engagements on the website. And so in addition to the website, just perusing taking the survey and perusing things, there's a map on the website that people can go and click and identify whether they love something like a park or what needs improvement or, what works or what does not work. And if you go get the chance to go to the website, if you scroll over this section of the website under the Get Involved tab, you can see what people have commented. And it's actually been really fun to take a look at it. I've done that a couple of times. But to boil it down, the engagement map had comments relating to land use and neighborhoods. That was the highest level of comments. Transportation, right behind land use and neighborhoods, because all of this is integrated. Community services and facilities, next, parks and recreation, economic development and housing, and then land capability. So people are concerned of how are we going to grow into the future. We're almost 90,000 people right now, continue to grow either through natural growth. All my kids were in college, live with me. And so, will they be able to buy a house in the future? Once they graduate, that's always a question. So that concludes my presentation and stand for questions.
Well, thank you, Director Lamboy. And maybe we should have heard this before we did the Bike Zero or the Vision Zero. But thank you for the presentation. Any questions or comments from?
I got a question. One, I'll confess to being a planner up from Washington State. Did that for about 40 years. Anyways, what's the best way for us to engage with the process?
So, Councilor, Member Pilcher, is that correct? Sorry. I would suggest that you engage on the website, come to the community meeting. We'll have sign-up sheets. There's also a way to sign up on our website and it gives you regular updates. I'm sorry, do you have another question?
I meant more of us as the committee, as a body, what's the best way for us to formally interact with the process?
Oh, thank you for that question. So the best way right now, the assessment report is online. If you want to take a look at the transportation chapter and send in comments related to transportation, or if your area of specialty includes water and you want to take a look at the water chapter, and there's a lot of data and analysis as to the availability of water and management thereof as well. So comments, and certainly I can come back to this committee and we can go through some of the chapters as you feel appropriate. And I can get your comments directly in this forum, or you can just email me, and I'll make sure to share that with it.
One other comment regarding commenting. So I know Angela and I both went to a meeting, maybe a couple of years ago, about the land code update. And you had the consultant running that page had the ability for people to make comments on them. It would have been nice to actually hear back whatever happened to comments. So I know I was always a little frustrated. I spent several hours going through the document, adding comments. I never heard a word back of whether anything had been incorporated or what the situation was. So I do think that's an important part of the process. If people are taking the time to submit comments, you find out, are they actually being considered, or are they just going into a black box?
Well, we're fortunate right now that we are introducing this to the city council. It's been under review by city staff for a while now. And so there was about a 6-month delay, but the part of that packet is going to be, and I'll email this to you, the disposition report. And the disposition report outlines in a table what the general comment was. We weren't able to capture everything, but what comments were and how they were addressed. And it's about 25 pages. So it does distill it a little bit, but yes, there has been a delay. My apologies for that, but I'll make sure you get that.
One other thing to our committee, my recommendation would be that we have the planning policy subcommittee take a look at the document, or at least the transportation part of it, then we report back to this body as a whole. Maybe that'll be a little bit more efficient. Ed nodding, that sound good to you, Mark? Ellen, yeah, that sound okay to you? All right, we'll do that. Thanks.
And I'm happy to come and attend any meeting that you might have, if you want me to take notes or what have you.
Any other questions from committee members? Okay, thank you, Director Lamboy. It's a big lift. Thank you for leading the charge on it, and wish you all the best as you push forward on this, and as well as the Chapter 14 rewrite. Lots coming. So,
Wow.
yes.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening. Okay, let's move on to item D, which is plan and design of Route 66 wayfinding signage. Mr. Tim Rogers. Yep. Good evening, Tim. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Happy to be here to report on one more aspect of the bicycle wayfinding. I think a couple of months ago, I presented to you on phase 2, and one smaller piece of the same task that I'm working for with the city on is Bike Route 66. And so I just wanted to come back to you all with an update. Really, we were tasked with just coming up with a conceptual plan for signing this, but we do have actually a very specific plan of signage locations, which I'm pretty much ready to refine and finish and hand off to Public Works as something that could be implemented with BPAC's blessing. So I just want to do a quick presentation reviewing where the idea of Bike Route 66 comes from, what the process has been, looking at signing a Bike Route 66 in Santa Fe, and what plaque we might use, and mapping out the actual route. And I have lots more details that we probably won't get into in terms of the aerial views with the actual locations of the signs, but we can look at those if there are questions, or just as an example. So Adventure Cycling Association has a bike route 66 that crosses the country, Chicago to LA, and comes through New Mexico, and it comes up to Santa Fe using the old Route 66 alignment, the original Route 66 alignment. And the idea for Santa Fe, the way that it relates to what we're doing with bike wayfinding, is that it could be kind of a more of a regional route through Santa Fe that would be helpful not only for bike tourists that are using Bike Route 66, but for people who are traveling across our metro area. So this is a map of Bike Route 66 as ACA has mapped it coming through Santa Fe. And we kind of had a vision, or maybe we could we could sign Bike Route 66 from Cañoncito to Madrid. That was kind of a bigger vision. We've kind of narrowed it down a bit, as I will explain. The two sides, this is the east side of Bike Route 66. It's a little complicated because it uses Don Gaspar to go south, but Old Santa Fe Trail to go north. So this is showing how it comes in from Old Las Vegas Highway. This is the new route that ACA is adapting. I spoke with them about the improvements on Old Santa Fe Trail, and they are changing their route to include Old Santa Fe Trail now that it has bike lanes all the way out to El Gancho Way. And that really is the main rationale of signing Bike Route 66 is we have a better way into town from Old Las Vegas Highway. We have a state Bike Route 9 that was signed years ago that uses Old Pecos Trail and is still a viable route. But one real benefit of signing Bike Route 66 is to show this other route to the plaza, which is actually a better one. The west side uses the rail trail, Arroyo Chamiso Trail, Richards Avenue, Dinosaur Trail. And we found that for several reasons, it's not as compelling to try to sign this route. And I can get into some of those reasons as we go. We had a lot of questions. I met with city, county, and NMDOT folks, and in trying to narrow down the approach. First, we were thinking, let's use the state Bike Route 66 plaque, which already exists. But NMDOT is not really in a position to work on state bike routes or give us permission to use it or change state bike routes or anything. So we're not working with them on that. We're not going to use the plaque. So should we create our own regional plaque? Yes. Can we use that on Old Las Vegas Highway, on state highways? The answer was no. They just have state Bike Route 9. They don't want to change anything. It's okay. We can do guidance from Old Las Vegas Highway. And they said, that's okay. We can put a sign for our route on the state highway that the route begins off of. So similarly, should we seek to include New Mexico 14 state highway? So the NMDOT was not willing to do that. And that kind of was one of the reasons that the west half was not as compelling. Originally, I had these as animations. The X's would come in as I spoke, but this is the simpler version. There's getting back to this question about using the Bike Route 66 plaque. The one on the left is a U.S. route that is being pursued elsewhere, definitely not in New Mexico. The second one is the New Mexico State Bike Route 66 plaque, which exists in Tijeras Canyon that we are not going to use. So then there are other plaques that, could be used by local governments that appear in the manual uniform traffic control devices. But there is flexibility when you're designing your own guidance. And actually, a couple of questions came from the MPO and the county that helped this evolve a little bit. One of the questions was, why are we making this Bike Route 66? Is it part of a whole network of numbered routes? And the answer is no, it's actually not. It's using Route 66 as a name. We're not making Bike Route 88 and Bike 59. We're just using this Route 66 theme. So in fact, it's not part of a network. And then the county staff pointed out, well, that didn't really come across, that these signs aren't really necessarily making you think of Route 66. So is there something else we can do? So we did come up with a way of having a Bike Route 66 emblem that would be make people think of Route 66. And so this is what we came up with. It's, like a Route 66 plaque. It shows an old style bike that kind of harkens back to the day. So this is what we're proposing as the guidance plaque where we're going to sign Bike Route 66. So looking at the, so this is looking at both routes again, but we really decided focusing on this east side route is the way to go. Old Santa Fe Trail into the plaza, and then Don Gaspar and Coronado coming back out. In using Don Gaspar and in signing Bike Route 66 east to Coronado, it was compelling to at least point out that at that point, Bike Route 66 west goes straight. But to avoid, there are reasons to not sign Bike Route 66 west on the west side. And so it was really more compelling to give bicyclists guidance to how to get to the rail trail, which is what Bike Route 60 West uses. And so to improve the guidance to the rail trail with one reference that for Bike Route 66 West, go to the rail trail. At the same time, coming down Don Gaspar, when we did the first round of wayfinding, I got some very good input that it was hard to incorporate, which was that we had this State Bike Route 9 and this guidance on Don Gaspar about Lamy and El Dorado, which are very far away, and so what about closer destinations? And so the best destination to point out really in response to that request was the hospital area. We couldn't really change the wayfinding at that point, and the phase 2 wayfinding wasn't really dealing with this area. But this is a chance, since we're going to be putting signs on Don Gaspar, to actually create this hospitals route as well. And so that's something that is related and tacked onto this. And I can explain more. It's a limited number of locations that we're proposing to put signage on. The east side, the actual Bike Route 66 route really requires 5 locations that are in the bullets there. The west side, including this hospital route that I mentioned, as well as guidance to the rail trail and guidance from the rail trail to the plaza, which is what Bike Route 66 does. It really made more sense, instead of focusing on Bike Route 66 west side, actually just provide good guidance to the plaza. The Bike Route 66 route uses Alta Vista to Galisteo. That's actually a little longer than just going through the rail yard, which is now a pretty viable route. And we can show people both. It made more sense to just from the rail trail say, here are your options to the plaza, and leave Bike Route 66 out of it, in fact. So this is just a numerical summary of what we're proposing. Just signage at 17 locations, 28 plaques to manufacture. And you can see how that compares to I called it phase B. It was, I guess, phase 2 wayfinding. Whoops. It's about 1/4 or really, no, 1/10 to 15% of the size of phase B wayfinding. And so it's really up to Public Works, up to BPAC and Public Works. Should we fold this into the implementation of phase 2, or should this be something separate? So that's pretty much my presentation. I have the series of all of these aerials showing where the signage would go. This is perhaps one of the more interesting and ones because it shows the plaques in use. This is how you would come off of Old Las Vegas Highway and find Bike Route 66 to the plaza. There is already a State Bike Route 9 sign that's just beyond the intersection, and the NMDOT did ask, that we make sure that it's clear that State Bike Route 9 is something different and still exists, and so that sign's already there. That will serve that purpose. So I could, run through these slides. This is the second location of those 66 plaques. I think if we just do the first 4 slides here, you'll see this is the return route coming off of Coronado. It's very simple. You just take a right on Old Santa Fe Trail. And this is coming out. Really, I try to minimize the amount of signage. And so this is a sign for State Bike Route 9 that's near the plaza. And we would just propose to add hospitals and Bike Route 66 as another destination plaque and not try to add a bunch of other larger plaques. This is an example of, we have these signs that say El Dorado, Lamy. Well, what else is that way? The hospitals. That's a much more useful guidance. And so that would just be stuck on top of that existing sign, which is what's on bottom. And this is where you come to where the two routes diverge. And so this is really the only place where we're really telling people about Bike Route 66 West, because we're differentiating it from the east. But we say via rail trail because we don't want to commit to providing a bunch more Bike Route 66 West signs. We just want people to know once they get to the rail trail, they're on it, and then they need to figure it out from there. The route might change over the years on that side. That's another reason why the east side, I think we have the best route. It's not going to change. West side is going to change. And so this is actually fixing up. This sign actually, I think it went up from phase 1, but it disappeared. And so it needs to go back up so we complete the guidance to the rail trail. We promised people we'd get them to the rail trail. Similarly, this is when you get Alta Vista at the rail trail, there's actually not really useful guidance here. There's just bike route signs. And so this was actually called to my attention, and it did make sense to, even though this seems peripheral to Bike Route 66, it is part of the route, and this is an important area to clarify. Instead of just telling people bike route, this is the rail trail, this way is the rail yard, this way is rail trail south, and options to plaza. This is what I was describing before. That sign tells you, the whole story. If you want to go to Galisteo Street like Bike Route 66 does, you can. It's actually a little longer than going via the rail yard. And then one more idea was we have this sign up at Siringo, tells you which way the rail trail is, which way the Arroyo Chamizo Trail is. They're very big signs with very small letters. So I did have one thought, we could just slap a Bike Route 66 on the Arroyo Chamizo Trail there. That's totally optional. And this is completing that hospital's route. We sent people down Don Gaspar. We told them they'd get to the hospitals. And actually, it's a chance to let people know that San Mateo does get you to Museum Hill as well, which is a future route that we've wanted to have guidance for. For the hospital route is interesting because, we'd have another sign when you get to Galisteo. The reality is we have signs that tell people how to get to the hospital, the H, and those signs, there's a missing sign, it seems like, telling you to take a left from Galisteo onto Lupita, which becomes hospital. So instead of just having a sign for bicyclists, I think it makes more sense to have the H sign. And I did run this by Jean Wolfenbarger, and she agreed. And so that is just, the hospital route is kind of a little complement to Bike Route 66. And so that is, I didn't realize we'd go through all of these, but that's, I think, the last slide. trying to hit page down, nothing's happened. So happy to stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for the presentation. Any questions or comments from the committee? And so I guess I got a question for you, Tim. Were you looking for guidance from us to roll up this request into phase 2, or?
I think that Romella would probably appreciate that guidance. This report to you all is kind of the completion of our tasks under this purchase order. But as I said, I'm happy to bring this to, it's pretty close to something I can hand to Public Works for implementation. And I'm happy to, complete that. But, first taking input from you all. Thank you.
Okay. Romella, any feedback?
Yeah, so we got another position filled, project manager 2. So I was thinking to give this to him to implement. I have a question because phase A and B, the wayfinding signage, all the signage has miles. For example, to go to rail yard, there's a 1/3 of a mile or 1 1/3 of a mile. But the bike route, there is no mileage.
Well, so actually Santa Fe County has already put up signage on El Gancho Way giving distance to the plaza. And so, this wayfinding is really focused on the directions, and the destination and distance didn't really come into play.
So for practicality, Chair Garcia, I have to go to city manager, first to my department director to release impact fees to construct this project. But so I will direct the new project manager to cost this project, and maybe it would be better to combine the 2 projects for implementation rather than going back to the city manager for another 20,000, just lump sum.
Okay. Any other comments or feedbacks from members?
No. Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks, Tim. That's how I get to town from where I live, is El Gancho Way to Old Santa Fe Trail. And I really think that getting it off of Old Pecos is better for everyone. And so I appreciate that, I appreciate the routing, because a lot of the, it's clear that you've ridden your bicycle around this town for a while, because a lot of those routes are really kind of best way to get from here to there. So I think that this will be a really helpful addition to folks who are, I see a lot of lost people on, near rental shops, kind of wondering where to ride. And I think getting these signs will be really helpful, because getting on a bike route, no matter, even if you're just being leisurely, is really helpful. So thanks a lot.
Welcome. Thank you.
Any other comments, feedback? So what I'm hearing from you, Romel, is it's good to have the recommendation to roll up this request into the existing request. Okay. I'm happy to make that motion to roll up this bike Route 66 wayfinding signage into the existing wayfinding phase 2 implementation.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Ms. Gloriosa Mas, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Member Abo?
Yes.
Member Board Gray?
She had to depart.
Member Gerlix?
Yes.
Member McConnell?
Yes.
Member Pilcher?
Yes.
Member Pengili?
Yes.
Member Schiff Miller?
Yes.
Member Wang?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. Thank you, Tim, for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we've got item E, request to extend the end of project termini of the Acequia Trail project from San Felipe to Airport Road if funding is available. Ben, the floor is yours, sir.
So this is the project that we discussed last meeting, I believe. And it ended with Eric Ani saying that him and Ramella should get together and talk to find out what is the best path forward. They didn't talk because they didn't want to have a conversation behind closed doors, which is, yeah, that's good. So Ramella brought up the idea of putting it together. Because right now, they're building the parking lots and that will connect some trails. But anyone to the south, and that is most of people that would be using it, they have to ride on a road without any sidewalks. There's blind corner, etc. So the idea is to have the contractors decide how to approach it, but most likely it would be to put a trail on the east side of the road, of San Felipe Road. It does look like there is plenty of city right-of-way on the side so that they could create this trail. It is a 1/4 mile long, and it also comes in with the stipulation of if there is enough funding. And there is the possibility of splitting it up into 2 phases, A and B, the San Felipe being phase B. So we're looking at the committee body to essentially make a vote of if we should add this extension of the Acequia Trail end of project from San Felipe to Airport Road.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Verbo, or no?
So, yeah, as I remember the presentation, you say it's like a 1/4 mile gap.
Correct.
And so this would need to be designed and then, or designed as a separate phase that might be an add alternate to a program, or, okay.
Yeah, they're currently at the 30%. Are they even at the 30%? They just did a community meeting.
Yes, so we are at conceptual design. I asked the consultant, how can we do this? The problem is that our funding is expiring next year. So this is the second time that we amended the funding agreement. We have only 3 times to amend the funding agreement. And so and he already looked at ways how to extend the termini. And I said to him that maybe we can have phase B because they have already finished the survey, and to resurvey the things, the area, they go back to step A and the environmental documentation, all those things. So what we agreed on is that if the BPAC approves this, then I will find the funding to have a phase B. So the survey will start from the old termini to the new termini. So it's like a separate project.
So the request would be for BPAC to approve adding a phase B to extend to fill the gap to Airport Road from the end of the, like, it was like an existing sidewalk or something. Is that right? As I remember.
Yeah, on San Felipe, whenever you cross Airport Road onto Country Club, it runs into an 8-foot trail.
Got it. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second by member Schiffmiller. Do we need to restate the motion or are you good? Okay, okay, gotcha. Any discussion on the motion? Yes. Member Schiffmiller. Okay, seeing and hearing no discussion, Ms. Glorioso, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Member Abo,
Yes.
Member Gerlix.
Yes.
Member McConnell,
Yes.
Member Pilcher,
Yes.
Member Pengili,
Yes.
Member Schiffmiller,
Yes.
Member Wang,
Yes.
Chair Garcia,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Member Pingili, for following up on this and bringing this, and Romella for looking into how this can actually be achieved. So thank you. Next up is item F, discussion on Senate Bill 73, Idaho stop law in relation to the city's uniform traffic ordinance. Member Pilcher.
Yes, Ramel and I had some discussions probably a month and a half or so ago regarding SB 73 and whether we need to actually adopt, propose an ordinance that adopts it into the uniform traffic ordinance. And so I did a little bit digging online. I guess I don't quite understand the relationship between the uniform traffic ordinance and the rest of city code. And I'm also a little puzzled by, I know other places where I worked before, they just, like a traffic ordinance would just reference the state traffic code and adopt it automatically. And so I'm trying to, it seems like we need to do another step here, or technically SB 73 is not in effect in Santa Fe. Which I'm concerned about, since we've been, as some people pointed out, they've been handing out brochures to people about this law coming into effect on July 1st. And if it's really not coming into effect, we got a little bit of egg on our face. No. Mostly I'm just confused.
Chair Garcia, should
Yes.
we ask the legal services? Because it's a state law. So we need to follow it, even though if it's not in the UTO, in the Uniform Traffic Ordinance.
I think that's a great question. Typically, if it's state law, we have to follow it. Let's ask legal. Let's.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. But my understanding is that state law, where there are conflicts, the state law, the city is subordinate to the state. And so not sure where in the city's code it might be in conflict.
I don't think there would be conflict. I think it's just ensuring that
If there is not something in the city code that would intend to would appear to conflict with. Yeah, thank you.
I was surprised looked up on the website about the Uniform Traffic Ordinance. It said it consists of the 2010 compilation of the New Mexico UTO as compiled by the New Mexico Municipal League, including all statutory changes enacted by the legislature through July 2020, as well as specific amendments to the prior 2004 compilation made by the governing body of the city of Santa Fe. But for one thing, it sounds like the one that's posted online has been updated since almost 5 years now.
It was updated with the e-bike ordinance.
Yeah,
because
I
we
know it's been updated, but on the, when you look it up on the webpage, it's a
did not.
5-year-old document that's posted up there. Anyways, that's, again, that's why things got kind of confusing to me of what really is the relationship between the two. And do we need to do something? Is it just a house cleaning amendment we need to come forward with, or is it technically you can't do the Idaho stop law in the city until we actually adopt something locally?
Right. And so let me propose this and I'm happy to make this a motion, where we can have myself seek legal guidance from our legal team. And if it does need to be updated, I can begin the process of initiating legislation to update the traffic ordinance,
Okay.
if that's okay. And then, because I'll let me ask this question to the committee. Would the committee rather work on drafting this, or, I mean, it's a simple change. I don't think it would be something super technical like the e-bike ordinance where we kind of created our own. We were first in the state. This is the state law. We're just basically taking the state law and incorporating it into city law. So, but I don't see anything. I'll go to make the motion that guidance from BPAC is given to Counselor Mike Garcia to seek legal assistance if the traffic ordinance needs to be updated, and if it does, begin to request such actions be taken.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any questions? Okay, Ms. Glorioso Mas. Can we get a roll call vote?
Member Abo,
Yes.
Member Gerlix, Member McConnell,
Abstain. I couldn't hear anything. I lost video feed, so I don't know what you're voting on.
And I could reiterate for you, Member McConnell. So the motion is for myself, Councilor Mike Garcia, to seek guidance from the city's legal team to determine if our uniform traffic code needs to be updated to based off of the recent Idaho stop law implementation in New Mexico. And if it does, then have me begin the process to update the law.
Yes. Thank you.
Sure. Happy to help. Sorry about the technical challenges.
Member Pilcher,
Yes.
Member Pengili,
Yes.
Member Schiffmiller,
Yes.
Member Wang,
Yes.
Chair Garcia,
Yes.
motion passed.
Okay. With that, let's go ahead and move on to the next item. Sheesh. Policy subcommittee updates or updates from the subcommittee communications, policy, planning, and law.
Well, we haven't met yet, but we certainly got our marching orders tonight with the land use plan update. So once we find out what section those we need to take a look at, I'll get a hold of the committee and we'll start digging in on it.
Okay. Thank you, Member Pilcher. Technical review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The technical review subcommittee has met a few times, and individual members of the subcommittee have been involved in some plan reviews. Member Schiffmiller I attended one of the Henry Lynch kind of roundabout incorporation to the Henry Lynch Road project, and Member Schiffmiller has attended a few of those. And for those not familiar, this is Henry Lynch Road, kind of between halfway down between Rafina and Awafria, to Awafria, and it includes a roundabout on Awafria. It's a joint city-county project, and so there's collaboration with the county, and there's some kind of cost share between the county. And so the analysis has been, this part of the analysis has been on the roundabout design. And so there was significant there are significant conversations around that. One of the things that has recently happened in that area is the county has built a connection from the river trail across the river that goes up towards Agua Fria on the south side of the Plants of the Southwest property. I think that's the Plants of the Southwest property. So the county has made some investments, and my understanding is that's under construction right now. And so it appears that this is an optimal connection between the Acequia Trail and the River Trail. Because the two parts of this project, the Henry Lynch Road part and the roundabout part, were kind of not developed at the same time. They're kind of at different phases. The subcommittee believes it's essential that reasonable accommodations be made for pedestrians and bicyclists to be able to get off the traffic way. There's a great opportunity for using for building a side path there because there are very few conflicts. And my understanding is there is a public meeting on the 18th at the Nancy Rodriguez Center. I think it's at Nancy Rodriguez Center that's on Caja del Oro Road. And so there's going to be a public meeting there. And so it's a good opportunity for anybody who's interested in that to attend. And so we, the technical review subcommittee believes that now is the opportunity, especially when you consider once this is built, this road is probably not going to be touched for 40 years. And, in 40 years, we will pass 2050. So, so there's the chance for us to kind of make a significant improvement to the connectivity of the trails and to the safety of folks getting from here to there. So, and I'm not sure, Gary, if you want to say any more about that, but because you were attending a few more than I, but that was the big thing that we did. The other thing we did is, as Leah mentioned, we were able to get a sneak peek at her addendum, bicycle safety addendum to their 2019 plan, and it looks good. We're individual members of the subcommittee are going to be presenting comments, and I encourage you all to look at that and provide comments to the MPO because it's a good document and probably needs a little review. Gary, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
This idea of connectivity between the River Trail and the Acequia Trail has been brought up in the past, and if I'm not mistaken, this committee voted on the idea of having a multi-use trail. I think it was back in 23, but at the time, what was not considered is that multi-use trail would actually be a connection between the River Trail and the Acequia Trail. So several of us on the subcommittee were thinking it may be worth revisiting that issue and considering approving the idea of a trail. Now, it's been brought up in some of these meetings, and in fact, I included that in my comments at the 60% review, and I was intending to attend that meeting, but due to a miscommunication, I missed that meeting, unfortunately. I did submit the comments, however. Tomorrow, there is a meeting about the sidewalks in that project and about whether there should be buffers, and the city staff actually has proposed to include buffers between the sidewalks and the road. I think it might be an opportunity to broaden that discussion and talk about maybe converting one of those sidewalks into a multi-use trail. And that meeting is happening tomorrow, and I intend to attend.
Thanks very much. And yeah, and I think because of the joint city-county participation in this project, the input is a little bit different. Just, and I'm not sure how how staff between city and county are dividing this up, but, this is a great project. I think conceptually, it really, makes a tie that will be helpful to keep people off of the pavement. And so, again, if anybody is interested either in attending the sidewalk meeting or going to the public meeting on the 18th, please do.
I would just like to point out that including a multi-use trail along Henry Lynch is very much in the spirit of this resolution that we talked about earlier tonight to make things safer. It gets bicycles and pedestrians, well, particularly bicycles, it gets bicycles off the road. It gets them out of a bike lane and onto a multi-use path. It's almost like a protected bike facility. And so that's certainly within the Vision Zero spirit.
That's our report. Thanks very much.
I have a comment on it also.
Sure.
So I was in the email chain with you two, and then also with Tim. And yes, so in 2023, Tim brought up the idea of having a multimodal path, and essentially it got shut down because it wasn't in the MPO master plan. And then the chair at that point, forgot his name, doesn't matter. Dan Painter. He was like, if it's not in there, then we shouldn't support this. Seeing and knowing what we know now, yes, I think we should. And then also a point that Tim brought up is the road is going to be shifting to the west. And so the old road of Henry Lynch, Tim was proposing that we preserve part of it and actually use that as the trail itself. So just wanted to put that out there. So rather than destroying, reusing, and yeah.
Right. And this public meeting on the 18th is really the first opportunity for members of the community to kind of look at this design and make comments on it. And I think that I'm sure he'll bring it up at that point. Thanks.
So the meeting on the 18th is only, so what happened is that Henry Lynch is under City of Santa Fe jurisdiction, which is from Rufina to Wofford, and from Wofford to Agua Fria, it's county. Because the roundabout project is in the MPO plan for so many years, I look for funding to design that portion of the project so that if we need to shift the alignment of Henry Lynch, we will construct it as if there will be a roundabout. So the road will not shift in the city jurisdiction. The road will shift in the county jurisdiction. And so the funding is city with state, so, but the construction of the county jurisdiction will be the responsibility of the county. And the road reconstruction will be from Rufina to Wofford will be the city. And we have already found some funding, but not enough. So what happened in 2023 also was our department director asked Tim, she said that, Tim, we cannot build a bicycle lanes, sidewalks on both sides of the streets and then still have a multi-use trail. You have to choose because that's the reality. We don't have enough money to reconstruct the Henry Lynch Road, which at this moment for the city alone is $6 million. So our funding is 2.5 million to construct this road, to reconstruct this road. So tomorrow, for the bicycle and sidewalk meeting tomorrow, maybe Gary, you can say that if we don't construct the sidewalk and the bicycle lane, can we just construct a multi-use trail? So
That was what I was going to suggest.
Hey, any other questions or comments about the subcommittee update?
We have our subcommittee member, Tim, here. Tim, did you want to say anything about this?
Thank you. Yeah, I just had kind of a question about eliminating the bike lanes. We've never eliminated bike lanes because of a multi-use path along the road. We have many examples, and it's not a reason, having a multi-use path along a road is not a reason to preclude bike lanes. So I would certainly not agree with the idea of not having bike lanes because we have a wide sidewalk on one side, nor would AASHTO agree with that either. But I think, as Gary explained, this actually could save money on the county side of things because we're proposing not to build a sidewalk. We're proposing to preserve 10 feet of pavement of Henry Lynch Road. So we actually destroy less road, dispose of less asphalt, and not build a sidewalk. So I think that should not cost more. That should cost less, actually. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I see Member McConnell's hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to comment that, so what you're proposing is eliminating the sidewalks, having a shared use path, and maintaining bike lanes on the redevelopment of Henry Lynch, whether it's the city or the county. Is that correct?
yeah, within city jurisdiction, because the county, the shift in the alignment will occur in the county. So what Tim was saying is preserve the pavement because there was a plan to landscape that area. But that will not occur in the city because we are not shifting the alignment in city jurisdiction. We are adding bicycle lane and sidewalk. And so what we are planning to do is to continue that sidewalk and bicycle lane to the county jurisdiction from Wofford to Agua Fria, then to the roundabout.
So the roundabout is at Agua Fria and Henry Lynch?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, this is just me speaking out loud. I don't know what the right-of-way implications are. Is it already require right-of-way take to be able to do this widening, or
yeah.
there's enough right-of-way existing?
Henry Lynch, there will be some 3 takes, right-of-way takes.
My understanding is the big take happens at the roundabout on the riverside of Agua Fria, with the Plants of the Southwest property. I don't believe there's a take from the storage needed. And I think there's just a short alignment along Agua Fria and at the Santa Fe Plants of the Southwest property. And that's the only take concern, is my understanding.
They are reducing the sidewalk from 5-3, so there will be no right of way takes. But this is everything that this decisions made in the roundabout. It's the county decision because it's in their jurisdiction, and they're the ones who will pay for the construction. So the meeting tomorrow is the Henry Lynch from Rufina to Wofford. What are we going to do? Because we are now at 60% design, and at 30% design, the agreement is that there are no buffer from 2 feet buffer for sidewalks. It's just road and then sidewalk and then bicycle lane.
So you'll have two 12-foot travel lanes, 6-foot bike lanes, curb and gutter, and sidewalk immediately up against the back of the curb.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah. So no matter what, am I understanding whether the trail connectivity you're talking about, maybe I'm confused, but the sidewalks are going to happen in the city portion no matter what.
That's
Is
the
that correct?
plan.
Okay.
But the recommendation of Tim and the subcommittee in 2023 was to, in addition to bike lanes and sidewalk, is to have a side path, a multi-use side path. But our problem is that at this point in time, we are the cost estimate is already $6 million.
And it will go up.
From Rufina only to Wofford.
Okay.
So we need to, we like an ideal project, but we need a realistic project as well. We can get maybe the side path phase B or later on, but not at this time.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the update. Next up, matters from staff.
Mr. Chair, Member Bird-Garay and Member Pengili wants to serve another term. So this will be the third and final term for Member Pengili and the second term for Member Bird-Garay.
Okay. Thank you for the update. Any other? Lucretia? See you hard at work there.
Nothing, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Matters from the committee. I'm going to just go left to right. Member Wang? Member McConnell?
Nope.
Okay. Matters from the chair. I just went ahead and sent in a legislative update to update the ordinance, uniform ordinance code. So they tell me we don't need to do it. So next, I'll have an update for y'all next month. With that, Member Bo, it's been a great pleasure to have the opportunity to serve with you. And as always, there's always ways to continue to contribute. Subcommittee.
And I hope that your meetings are shorter if I'm gone. Thank you.
But with that, our next meeting is July 10th, and our meeting is adjourned.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.